Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started the policy committee meeting. My name is Kari Sotner. I am the board president, and tonight I'll be acting as your host for the policy committee. I am on the policy committee. Ken, thank you very much. We are also here with the other policy committee members, Juanita and Jason, and Anna is in the sky with us tonight because she is coming to us from Canada. Hello, Anna Chirac as well. Are you there with us? Great, wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Anna. Dr. Rinelli and Ms. Schaefer is here as well, our entire team. So I'm going to go through a couple things because this is a special policy meeting. So this is a policy meeting. This is a special meeting of the policy committee. We typically do not have an August meeting. So thank you everyone for joining us in person and those who are joining us online. We really appreciate your interest and the work of the board around this. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to review policies 141 and 142, which are scheduled to be presented to the full board for adoption on August 17th business board meeting. Since the board's first reading of the original proposed policy use, technology use policy XXX, the proposal has been reorganized into two-step policy to improve clarity and organization. There's been a lot of work that has gone on to separate these two policies and completely revamp them. I want to thank the administrative team. I want to thank the board chairs for the amount of work. I know the entire board and the community has put a lot of thought and effort. I've watched the community comments come in. Ms. Schaefer, thank you so much for the work that you've done on this. And also Ruth, thank you for being new to the team and making sure we get all those community comments. There's been a lot going through that as well. So thank you all for a lot of work going on here. The restructuring has been intended to make these substantive changes and the direction to really ensure that the work of the board, the work of the administrative team, and the work of our schools and our students are in the best light of the research that we know, the efforts of the school team, and the work that our students, we're putting students first in ensuring that our educational work is moving forward with technology in a safe way and ensure the monitoring and privacy are in alignment with best practices in education across the country. Before we begin tonight, a few housekeeping ways that we're going to move forward with tonight's meeting. It is a special meeting. Number one, public comment sign in. If you are a district resident and wish to offer public comment, please be sure to sign in. There's a sheet that is available at the entrance. You do not have to sign in if you do not want to make a public comment. That did get confusing for some people in previous meetings. It's not like a check-in sheet. It's all right. Only if you want to make a comment. There are restrooms and exits. Restrooms are located down the hallway to your right as you exit through the rear doors of the room. Please use the rear doors for routing, entry, and exit. Those in the back, I feel like a stewardess right now. The side exit near the podium is for emergency use only. Seating. To minimize distractions and ensure everyone could hear the discussion, we ask that all attendees remain seated while the meeting is in session. Anyone who needs to leave or step into the hallway may do so. Please, again, use those rear doors for us. Agenda. Tonight's meeting will follow the agenda that has been posted. The committee will first review each agenda item. This is the typical format of any committee meeting. It always begins with the committee, has a discussion on it, and then we engage in discussion at the committee level, and then we hear public comment, and that is during a designated time. We ask everybody to follow our civility policy. Copies of the board civility policy and committee meeting guidelines are available when you enter the room. So please, if you're not sure what they are, please grab a copy. We respectfully ask everyone to help us maintain an environment that allows all participants to be heard. As reflected in our civility policy, intentional disruption or impeding the orderly conduct of the board or committee meeting is not prohibited. This expectation does not apply to comments made by individuals who have been recognized to speak during the public comment period, provided those comments are made within the established time limits and related to matters of district concern or business before the board. Now, on the topic of public comment, we will be conducting in accordance with Board Policy 007. Pursuant to that policy, and in order to permit the policy committee to complete the business portion of its meeting in a timely and orderly manner, the total time allotted for audience recognition on agenda items is 45 minutes. This is the standard practice, unless extended by the committee for special circumstances. To provide as many individuals as possible with an opportunity to be heard, the committee and administrations will generally reserve responses until the conclusion of the public comment period. We will hear public comments and make statements in response to what we hear tonight and what we have heard over the past few months. So the way we'd like to do this tonight, because we don't want to wait for the 45 minutes to end to answer these questions. The way we'd like to do it tonight is do this in batches. We'd like for people who have made public comments for the first 15 minutes of public comments, everybody to have their public comment at the podium. We'll take a break after the 15 minutes, and then the appropriate staff member or board member will answer those comments, and then we'll take the next batch of 15 minutes, and we'll do that in repetitive until we run out of time for this committee. That way we're able to answer as many questions as respond to as many questions as possible, and really be able to move this along in a way that fills the information that we receive and responds to information that we are able to share back. We understand that sometimes people just want to share information with the board and with the administration, and that is fine as well. Sometimes you do not need an answer. Finally, I want to briefly outline how we will proceed if disruptions occur. Do we need to add this too?
Oh, so.
Okay, we'll skip that part. Great. And before we move on, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Rinelli for the next section.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank the board and the entire team. There was so much work done in a short period of time, and it was really good work, and I appreciate all the long hours, the hard work, and all the information and research that poured into this. In saying that, I want to highlight some things that are in the policy, the proposed policy in ARs. I think that may answer some questions or concerns that you all have from what we've heard from you. And really, again, the good work. So if you bear with me, I wrote a bunch of things down because I really don't want to miss anything with the important things that we did. For the increased safety and filtering, we evaluated 3 products, iBoss, Lightspeed, and Securely. Based on our testing, Securely emerged the strongest option. Our goal was to identify a platform that supports access and educational content while effectively blocking inappropriate, distracting, or unnecessary material. Steps we've taken to improve filtering and device management. We have enabled an SSL decryption, and maybe Andrew could help me with that explanation, to identify when students were using the proxy sites to circumvent the filter. We blocked all Google sites as they were being used to play games. We're only allowing LMSD Google sites created by teachers. We blocked all social media, streaming services, and AI summaries. We're continued to block categories that are non-curriculum related. In addition to internet filtering, Securely offers 2 tools that would provide significant value to the district: classroom management for teachers and a parent portal for home use. The classroom management tool gives teachers greater control over students' device uses during instruction. Teachers can create allow and block lists, direct all students to a specific website, limit the number of open tabs on a screen, monitor student activity, and help them stay on task. The parent portal, Securely Home, gives families, and you all have this, gives families visibility into student device activity during and outside of school. Parents can apply stricter filtering during non-school hours, block specific websites, and establish device use times and turn off the device when outside of school at any point. Parents will have the ability to block more categories if you don't want your kids to use them at home. And parents could set schedules and pause the device at any point, whether it be the weekend, whether it be night, do your homework, and you'll be finished by 8 o'clock, whatever that may be. Together, these tools strengthen student safety and support the effective classroom management. The second major point that we heard was, how do we review our technology and how do we know that it's safe for our kids? So I just want to go over a little bit of our process, and these are bullets for about 3 pages. So again, if you'd bear with me. The approval process involves collaboration among the curricular leaders, IT department, business staff, legal counsel, and instructional leaders. Every proposed product is evaluated for instructional value, cost, student and staff data privacy, cybersecurity, accessibility, technical compatibility, operational feasibility, long-term sustainability. The process begins with requests submitted, and the requester must document all the things that I just mentioned, why it's needed, how it will be used, intended users. We've added to this list the amount of time they think and days they think will be used, because that's part of the approval process now as well. We don't disagree with the fact that we don't want the kids on for a long period of time. Funding source, administrative oversight, and whether the request involves a new vendor that we have to vet as well. Student privacy and security are central components of this review, so the requesters must identify categories for information shared with the vendor, how accounts will be created and managed, whether administrative accounts are required, and who will manage those accounts. The privacy is the most important thing to the district, and we'll evaluate compliance with student data privacy laws, review vendor security practices, establish appropriate identity and access controls, and limit disclosure as much as we possibly can. Curricular leader and instructional leaders will review how it aligns with the curriculum, how it supports instructional priorities, how it provides meaningful educational value, and that it does not supplant teaching, avoids duplication of existing tools, and how it advances teaching and learning rather than simply reflecting a popularity or availability. Our IT team will evaluate how it's supported, all the web-based installed and integrated delivery methods, the authentication, administrative accounts, and so on. Every educational agreement will undergo a legal review as well. District Legal Counsel will review contracts, terms of service, privacy policies, data ownership, security requirements, liability provisions, regulatory compliance. And the district seeks to ensure that privacy of staff and students is the most important thing. Device deployment. So many of you came and said, well, we don't think our kindergarten needs a one-to-one device. I don't disagree with you. Right, so we laid out some things as you would have seen in the AR if you read it. So grades K to 2, 6 iPads will be issued in each K and 1 curricular classroom, and trays will be used for storage. In grade 2, 6 Chromebooks will be issued to each classroom and will be stored in a small tabletop cabinet. Students will log on when necessary through a class link badge, and we could explain that later. It's basically just a QR code that's signaling to them. Grades 3 and 4, devices assigned for classroom use. Devices will not be assigned to individual students. They will be in a cart in each room with 25 or 30 Chromebooks. Each student will use the class link badge to log in. So I've gotten a couple of questions. Well, is this just a one-to-one deployment without calling it that? Not necessarily. We don't anticipate kids in 3, 4 to be using it every day, to be using it a ton of time, and we don't think someone needs a specific device. Basically, we want the kids to start to get used to the device in preparation for test management, test taking in the spring, things like that. Grades 5 and 6, devices individually assigned to students for classroom use. They will be stored on carts and placed in each homeroom. All devices will default to stay at school. Parents and guardians may choose through PowerSchool to allow their device to come home. Grades 7 and 8, as we increase independence and responsibility, devices are individually assigned, and they will default to go home. So the upper middle school will be the opposite, and parents may choose to keep them at school by selecting that default in PowerSchool. Devices will need to be picked up and dropped off at the tech center, so they will be stored in secure carts every day. And principals are responsible for making that process flow smoothly. And grades 9 to 12, devices are individually assigned for students for use in and out of school. The last one that we heard from you, we heard a lot of things, but the major category was how are we preparing our teachers and making sure they're ready for success. What we've already done is on June 23rd, we introduced the new policy in AR, proposed new policy in AR to our building principals and gave them a professional learning plan. Principals started training, prep, and operationalizing the new proposed policy. All of the core standards are grounded in the leaders. Technology is used only when it serves a purpose. We walk principals through active versus passive use. And we train principals in the default to off philosophy. We want to make sure that if the kids aren't using it, that teachers tell them, look, we want your screens to be down, right? Or we don't want them to be at your desks. Further, what's coming this summer? Basically, we have more trainings in August, in-service days district-wide, ongoing asynchronous training with work to be completed on building days, things like that. So again, I know I said a lot there, and most of it is in the AR and the policy, and I want to thank everybody for the work that they did. And hopefully it answers some of your questions. If not, we will be happy to do that in those batches, as Dr. Sautner said.
Thank you. I feel like my gratitude towards the work that you and your entire team has done was not appropriate enough. That is a ridiculous amount of work that you and your staff has been doing, and I cannot thank you enough for how much other districts have been doing this over a longer period of time. And I have literally spent the last 2 months crosswalking over every single policy across this country and moving forward, and I am beyond impressed of what Lower Merion School District is doing. There's always movement for us to do better and to do more, but this is extremely robust. Thank you. Thank you all for the work that you're doing around that, for our principals, for our teachers, and for the work they're doing. Thank you so much. Now that was excellent. Thank you so much. Let's dive into 141. Let's have, Megan, I'm not used to policy. Megan goes first. Megan goes first with 141. And do we do 141 and 2 together, or do we break them up?
I think we can kind of take a look at them comprehensively, and then as we go through the questions, maybe, make sure we're pointing out one direction or the other, because I think, to be fair, you have to look at it as a whole in terms of the systems and how they operate to ensure that we're both speaking to the educational side of it as well as the safety and security side of it, which is what I think both you and Dr. Vanelli spoke to. So just to orient back to the technical piece of what the policy looks like now, as those of you that have been along the journey with us, this started as a singular policy, and we did divide the policy into 2 separate policies to reflect or try to enhance the clarity around what is the sort of the educational instructional pieces of the policy as it relates to technology use, which I think is where you'll see us have sort of enhanced what that looks like and be more explicit, both from a community-facing standpoint, but also importantly, so our staff has the guidance that we, I think, practiced, but never had in a policy or AR to point to. So, having been on the policy committee for a long time, or serving the policy committee for a long time, I can certainly say that this is an enhancement in terms of what was there before and what we're seeing now. And I think it feels good, honestly, to be able to have language that we can work with and build consistency around for our staff, importantly, and also for families too. So that's the 141 side of the policy, and then the 142 side probably looks a little more familiar in terms of the language that was there, because that revolves around some of the compliance pieces that were necessary in order to comply with COPA and SIPA, and so you'll see some of that regulatory language, but it also, I believe, it goes beyond what is just the legal minimum that's required in terms of data privacy and security, and also talks about, and Dr. Vanelli spoke to, like in practice, what we're doing to monitor, to be, to put better tools in the hands of our instructors during the day, and also for families at night. So we're really looking at it from a comprehensive standpoint and making sure that when, that we kind of take a Swiss cheese approach to safety, and it's not just a one thing that makes us, 100% secure, that there are multiple levels of security and privacy, and that we're trying to address it as comprehensively as possible in that 142. So the ARs, as we've talked about before, are a little more weedy and give a little more substance to the work as we move forward. And there's still yet, not everything can be in a policy or an AR. You can look at any of our ARs. There's always more to the work, especially when we talk about the professional work of our teachers. So I think the overarching theme, though, that we've tried to make sure came through was that, all of the comments we've got, we believe in a teacher-led classroom, that human interaction is a priority, and that technology is a tool, and we want to make sure that we're using it intentionally and purposefully with students. So that's where this version of the policy in the AR stands at the moment. And so, again, for the purposes of trying to capture those pieces in a way that may be a little more clarifying for everyone, that's why we took the step of moving it into 2 different policies. So I also think to just piggyback on what Dr. Minnelli said, the actions speak louder than words. We have been taking a lot of action this summer to implement the policy as it stands, the proposed policy. So I think it's important just to say that's meaningful and work that I think our staff and certainly our administrators are already preparing for and will be ready for in the fall. So with that, we've made some minor additions to the AR in particular to, again, enhance the explanation of what we're doing as it relates to things such as the parent portal, and made some other language changes. Again, the intent was to improve accuracy and clarity in our work.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go through comments from board members. Jason, you go first. I'm going to have to go last because I'm talking.
Thank you. Just one question, Dr. Minnelli, I really appreciate that breakdown. Quick question about the 5th and 6th and the 7th and 8th. For 5th and 6th, if they're not going to bring home the computers, homework, do we know, will homework be something that will be physical papers? And then if the default on 7th and 8th, will that be the opposite?
Mm-hmm. So the default for 5th and 6th is that it doesn't go home, so homework won't be generated through digital resources at all. Homework for 7 and 8 will be, but just as it is now, we have a number of students who choose to leave it at school, right? It will not be penalized against them if the parents choose to have their computer stay at school. We do feel homework is good practice for kids, but it won't be, the grades won't be affected one way or another.
So 5th and 6th, they'll have homework that will be given to them in packets or some other form?
Depending on the homework, but yes, that's what we're
7th and 8th will be electronic?
7th and 8th will be electronic. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Just to clarify, not all homework is electronic. They still have to read a book.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
The homework that is
just
electronic.
Just as it is now.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. All right. So I guess just going through, and I tried to be brief. First, I appreciate all the effort and the time that the administration put into putting this together. I know it wasn't easy. I think the overarching number one piece is that this new version of the tech policy in AR increases the screen time for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders by 50% when it should decrease it. Everyone's just talked about, as both the board as well as administration, about how important it is not to have, that the default should not be screen time. And I see that in this policy, it goes from 30 minutes to now 30 to 45 minutes, and then from 60 minutes to now 60 to 90. So,
Can you point to the page?
Sorry,
I'm just asking Jason the reference.
So
the
in the
page.
administrative regulations, it goes on page 6. It indicates that 3rd and 4th is now 30 to 45 minutes per school day. 5th and 6th is 60 to 90 minutes per school day, when in the previous versions, it was always 30 minutes and 60 minutes. So I would, based on what everyone has discussed about how important it is to limit the amount of time, I would just encourage to revert back to the previous versions, which was 30 and 60. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that in the tech policy, I saw that we've changed the term personal technology, was switched to cell phones. So now it won't include like smartwatches, which I think are just as distracting. So if we can maybe rework the language that, and we're not saying that we're taking away, smartwatches or that they have to hand them in, but I think that the distracting nature and the ability to text, which is what we want to, probably discourage during school hours, is something that I think we should, revise, and maybe we can accomplish both aspects of it in different language.
Can I respond there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel that there's a tipping point, right, where we're doing too much. I was talking to one of the principals at the high school, and the off and away, now we'll store the phones, they were doing a lot last year in the front of the room, which we're moving toward a ban, all that stuff. But he's like, are we going to store smartwatches too? And I said, I don't think so. I think that's going a little overboard. I said, if a student is texting on their watch, which I know I can too, I could press yes or whatever, I mean, then it maybe is a behavioral issue if you tell them to stop and they don't. Things like that. I do think there's a tipping point where, whether we ban them or not, and right now I think that's the way I would like to propose it. It's your policy. You want us to do all that, you let us know.
So, just so I'm clear, I'm not looking to ban people from having smartwatches or that they have to hand in their smartwatches when they walk into the classroom. But I think as, in a comprehensive policy, maybe we should think about an option of, just at least explicitly saying that the smart function should be turned off during the classroom, as part of it. Something is there so that the teacher has the ability, so that it's not disruptive component of it. But right, but not confiscating it or anything like that. That's not what I'm asking for. I just think that, I think we can accomplish both pieces of that. I appreciate the training initiatives, Dr. Anelli, that you had indicated. I do think that the language in the tech policy and the AR is at times inconsistent, vague, and broad. And my concern is that it will fall on the teachers and principals to interpret the tech policy and the administrative regulations, which I think they have enough on their plate. And I'm concerned that with this vague and broad language, it could create some issues. And then the last piece of it is that I appreciate, Dr. Anelli, everything you said about the components of the IT and the different steps that we've taken thus far to protect our children, which I think is really important. I would encourage us to incorporate some of that into the policy and the administrative regulations so that it's more robust and that it's inclusive in the policy, the steps that the district is taking and the initiatives.
Thank you. Juanita, would you like to go next?
No, just in response to smartwatches, I know that parents can set school times on that, and they can limit the use or eliminate the use during school time, so you don't have the distraction. I had another point, but I forgot what it was, but I think that's one of the main things that we need to ask is that there's a collaboration between home and school in terms of personal devices, which includes watches.
Yeah, sorry, if I may. If the approach is going to be that we're going to ask the teachers to tell the students to not use them, or if they see them texting it, I think having it in the policy that it's not allowed, I think provides, as Dr. Anelli said, like teeth to be able to implement that as part of the policy, which doesn't discourage the parents to do their own of it as well. But I think the more we can include in the policy, the stronger it becomes and the more comprehensive and useful and it can be.
Anything else, Juanita? You're good for now? Okay, thanks. Anna, would you like to go next?
Sure. I don't have much to add, Curry, other than, there's many parents in our district who are very supportive of the policy and also very supportive of their students remaining, having the option to have tech, and are upset that computers won't be going home. So I just think however we balance it, finding the happy medium that is able to address the needs of all students and ensure that we are giving autonomy to principals and teachers to do their job, and also holding them accountable is really important. And Dr. Ranelli and your team, I believe that how you have structured this in the language that is used in this policy allows you to be able to then set the expectations to hold folks accountable through the systems that are already in place in the district that also gives autonomy to parents to make the choices that are best for their kids.
Thank you,
So
Anna.
one last thing, Curry. I know this wasn't mentioned in this version, but also just to name that it is the edict to the superintendent and to the board, and it is written as such in the policy that K to 8 is banned on cell phones, and next year we will be moving that way for high school in 27-28, and that language and the policy leaves that to make that move, and it was shared in the last policy meeting that is the plans of the district in future years. I just didn't hear that mentioned in the overview, so wanted to make sure that was shared broadly.
Thank you. Just to be clear, could everybody understand that? Great. Okay, thank you for that shakeout there.
We have a no.
We have a no. Okay, so Anna just wanted to make sure it was clear to everybody that next year it is written into the policy that K through 8 cell phones are banned from the classroom, and that it is often, what's the better way of saying? Off and away in the high school is written into the policy, and then for 27-28, it'll be K through 12. Cell phones are banned from K through 12 in 27-28. Okay, my turn. Okay, so going through here, just going through these pieces one by one, I think the strengthening of the policy to really kind of spell out that over and over again, that we see technology as a supplemental tool to support high-quality teacher-led instruction. The flipping of this from even from the first reading to the second reading has an unbelievable improvement. And also, I would just want to pull out here over and over that it is written over and over in here: approved curriculum resources, state testing preparation, and things that are materials that are mandated. This is written probably 10 times in this policy, and I want to pull that out to make that really clear that the intentionality in this is to use technology like a microscope in the classroom. It is a tool to support high-quality learning when that tool enhances understanding and learning, and not a tool to replace teaching, not the tool to replace classroom instruction where kids learn from each other. This is a highly intentional, high-quality education lesson. Dr. Rinaldi, the way you walk through that material I thought was really helpful, and what I would suggest to kind of enhance is to either pull some of the data privacy pieces that you really spelled out in that memo into an overarching memo for the community. And to Jason's point, I really did like layering it deeper into the ARs around 142. I think that would strengthen the application of it in the classroom setting. ARs are for the school team. Administrative regulations are for the school team to apply. They are not for the board to weigh in on. That is not our work. So this is just a suggestion, not the work of the board to weigh in on. But I really do think it could be a useful tool to ensure that our principals are working with our teachers to ensure that this work is happening in the classroom. Policies are not meant to micromanage the classroom, but they do hold standards and hold guidelines and work with clarity. And I think the clarity of these tools working together is what ensures moving forward. I also just want to point out that over and over and over again in this policy, it is referencing curriculum. Because the way we ensure that high-quality teaching happens in the classroom that is teacher-led and human-led is to ensure that curriculum and teacher training is being driven by teacher-centered, student-centered teaching and not technology-centered teaching. And that's the work of our curriculum team that is sitting right in that front row there, that we know with math and with everything else is being driven in that direction. So those two things go hand in hand. A policy sets the vision, it sets the goals, and it sets the evaluation work. It's the curriculum that really pulls it through and makes sure it's happening. And thank you, Scott, for ensuring that that was repeated over and over and over in here in this. A couple other pieces that I think could as we go through and can get a little tighter. The only thing that I will say that I would like to see, and this, again, suggestion, not my job as a board member, but I would like to just suggest it out loud. I would like to see that high school to be the 2 hours. I know that's hard to monitor, and I know that high school kids, especially the more and more we see AP classes that are so highly online, I'd like to see kind of a parameter around the high school kids. I know that's difficult, but could we consider using words like consider keeping high school around 120 minutes?
Yeah, I think, and it was in there and now it's not. And the reason for that is because, with 6, 7 teachers, how do we control, well, you get your 30 minutes today, you get 30 minutes tomorrow, so we wanted to make sure that the teachers had all the tools that you had said before to where they understand, like we're going to default to off and not expect to use the computer. But we didn't want to handcuff them with that. So we could look at that. I would rather, if you're all okay with it, and I know it's the AR and we're really driving that bus, I'd rather see how the first couple of months go. And we can monitor how much the kids are using it and then say, but we'll talk about that language.
I think that's why I like the word consider.
Yeah.
Because what it does is it puts a valve on the AR that says this is where our target is. And what we do in curriculum, or what your team will do in curriculum, is to establish a tenor where we're setting expectations that we're going to print out, an AP Gov, Brown versus Board of Ed, where we're going to read it in a printout. And we're going to do like slow, long reading instead of having the laptops up the whole time and scanning the reading, things like that. So we shift the mindset of, we know we're limited. We know we're going to watch a video and have the kids do an analysis of the SCOTUS blog. We know they have to do that SCOTUS blog review online. We can't get that, not online. So maybe we give them that. Again, if we put the framing of consider keeping high school kids to 120 minutes, it gives you a little bit of flexibility without not putting a target on the thing. Sorry. Yeah.
If I may, just based on that, I mean, my suggestion would be and I think it is fluid, if it's possible, I would love to see 30 and 60, and then we can reevaluate it. You can reevaluate it.
30 and 60 for what?
Sorry, 30 minutes for 3rd and 4th, and 5th and 6th, 60, going back to what you originally.
High school.
No, I know, but Dr. Ranelli was saying that before. I would love to see if that was possible, and then if there needs to be, then we can. I think that starting off, when we look at it, the difference of 5 hours a week versus, if my math is correct, like 7.5 hours a week, I think is a big delta for 5th and 6th graders, and 90 minutes is what you're giving to 7th and 8th graders. So I just think that that's a huge amount. So I would love to see that for the time being, and then we can, you can reevaluate it and see if needs to be more later on.
I don't think you disagreed with him, did you?
I don't.
I think.
I don't disagree with you. I just, again, I want to make sure that we're not handcuffing the teachers. But I understand. I heard you both, and we'll talk about it.
I think we were just talking about two different lines.
No, I got you, though.
No.
Yeah. I think he agreed with you earlier.
Oh, so we're changing it to 30 and 60?
No, I think he just, I was talking about something completely different.
know.
So I was.
All right.
Okay, I'm sorry. I want to make sure I'm going through my list before. Do you need to step back in here while I go through my list? Go right ahead.
I just want to make sure, how are we supporting teachers with this effort? Because this is going to be a completely different process than what they've been used to.
Mr. Weinstein, you could probably articulate that much better
And one
than
of the
I can, so.
comments or feedback that we've heard from the community is that teachers don't feel comfortable coming forward and discussing some of the complexities or challenges that they're under. So how are we best supporting our educators?
Well, part of operationalizing the policy, and Dr. Ranelli spoke to this a little bit when he went over multiple areas of district changes, is on June 23rd, we had a leadership day after the school year and trained principals. We're going to have turnaround trainings that are going to be in 2 different ways. One will be an asynchronous model where it's going to cover basically 5 areas that we broke down operationalizing policy in, from philosophy of tech use to grade level expectations, instructional planning, and classroom management. The last one's more student-centered, which is digital citizenship, which will be lessons that we give towards students throughout the year. But the focus in the beginning of the year will be training principals. For example, and this, Dr. Saltner speaks a little bit to what you were talking about. Dr. Rinelli's correct. Like, controlling that algorithm and managing 120 minutes in a high school is nearly impossible. In elementary, you have your classroom teacher that's with the child most of the day. In middle school, you have a team that works together where you have management. In high school, you lose that management because the algorithm goes crazy with 200 plus classes and 1,400 students. So to manage that, like we try to do things like a testing schedule. You can't capture it. It's just not manageable enough. So I wouldn't want to put it in policy if we couldn't commit to governing it the way we would want to. But what we can do is give these trainings, the principals will turn them around. They're being co-made with best practices, things like active and passive use. So the way we would manage that is when you go into a classroom, you're not only evaluating, you wouldn't be able to capture how much use a child's doing the whole day, but you can capture in that moment if it's a good use of technology or not. Meaning, does the technology enhance the learning goal, or is it passive use that shouldn't be happening? So part of this plan is training all staff to determine when appropriate use and inappropriate use would be there, so we all grow together in learning that way. So that's kind of what we have on board. There's further trainings coming up this summer, and then when the teachers come back for our 4 days of professional development, before all students come back, that will be part of the training that happens.
That's like methods training too. Your methods training to ensure that instead of, like if it's a social studies course, instead of having everybody watching a video on the laptop, you could use it on the main screen in the room and then have an open discussion. That will reduce screen time for the student and still be able to produce the content delivery of, like, say, an expert speaker, but reduce screen time for a one-to-one device, correct?
That is correct. And I think it should be said that I know teachers are watching, that the viewership of these meetings has increased as the energy has increased in these buildings. And I think it's fair to say for teachers, they're in this because they like that human relationship with students also. Like, this turn tech on and teach the kids is not what they got into this business for. And as I visit classrooms all throughout the district, they actually like children and like teaching and like the interaction and verbal dialogue, and it's human-led. So yes, whenever possible, they like teaching.
Okay, I just have one question. This is in, I think it's in 142, and it's actually in the ARs, it's page 28. Reasonable suspicion. Megan, I'm sorry if I missed it in here. I swear I read it like 3 times. Is there any part of this section under reasonable suspicion where it talks about calling the guardian? I read it like 3 times and I feel like I did not see that. It talks about like what the cyber team will do and the accounts that they will look through, but I didn't see at any point a notification to an adult. Okay, shouldn't it be?
Sure. Put it there.
Okay, thanks.
Doesn't have to be, it can be.
I think it should be.
In the context of a search, to the extent we are alerted to a student accessing an inappropriate website, for example.
Yeah.
And so the protocol, does the protocol require, by law, us to notify the family before we look to confirm whether a student has accessed an inappropriate website or not?
No, there's no law
Okay.
that requires notification of parents for any search. Most districts have policies that provide it at some level, but there's no law that requires it.
You're saying after the fact?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm not
I
saying
didn't know.
that you have to tell the parent, like, say it's something extremely dangerous.
Right.
Do what you need to do, but
Okay.
there
I
needs
was
to
trying to
be
clarify
a
at what
caveat in
point.
there that
Just
after
to-
you search my child, and that you should tell me. Right?
I can agree with you on that.
That's it. That's my last question. Any other members of the board?
No, thank you.
Okay, I thought you were going in there.
No, thank you.
142 now, right?
No, I think we did 142 as well. That was 142, right? 141, 142, we're great. Now we're ready for public
Sorry, the one thing I just wanted to underscore on the safety and security and some of the language that was updated was to underscore that it is the district's responsibility to not have students be able to access those sites that we don't want students on, and that it would be if students are purposefully and directly circumventing protocols and security structures that are in place in order to access. It's an important distinction because there's been a lot of conversation about where does the responsibility lie. So I just wanted to point out that we did update that language to make it clear that when we talk about holding students accountable, it's when they have purposefully gone around the structures and security measures that we have in place.
Thank you, Anna. That's a really valid point. I also do think that, and Megan, you talked about this earlier at in a previous conversation about cross-referencing the other policies that we have around privacy and data, and ensuring that in the AR there's cross-reference to kind of the information that Dr. Ranelli shared of how do we really talk about overall data security and privacy, and how do we keep our kids safe, because it is the district's responsibility. Great. Thank you, Anna. Okay. Now everybody's good? Okay. Now we are ready for public comment? Okay. It's been a while since I ran a committee meeting, so I'm a little rusty. So who is first up on public comment? And let's do 5 at a time, and so everybody's going to go in order, and then at the end of the 5, we'll do batch responses.
So first is student Greta Freeman. Freeman. Dean Rosenkrantz. Ruth Jenkins. David Shapiro? Yeah, that's good. And Stacy Moyen.
Okay, you guys can line up, and then
Where do I line up?
Miss Greta, you are first up, so you can go right to that mic, and then when you're ready, we are listening. Thank you very much. Do you need a chair?
Do I just
You
stand
good?
here?
No, you're all right? Okay, we can
Okay.
hear you.
Well, I didn't really address the speech to anyone, just generally a speech. I'm Greta Freeman. I'm going into Welsh Valley, and yeah. Pencils over pixels. What does that mean? It means taking, not giving. You say no screens, but you communicate on WhatsApp. You have meetings on Zoom. You use online polls to create meetings in person. But in person, only 60% of it is pencils over pixels, and it's just 1 hour. And how many of you really attend it? But home is a big part, too. Kids may not feel like they should be obliged to not have less screens at school when they spent the weekend playing 5 hours of video games. So the kids don't understand it. Also, yeah, but I didn't plan to say that. One time we were having a conversation about what kids wanted to be when they grow up. I have no idea how this conversation started. I was just bar table. And then 5 of them said YouTubers. So people have jobs on screens. And yes, we do it at home. When people do it at home, the kids don't understand why they can't do it at school. So it would be nicer if we had a little more talk about this at school. Okay. And blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you're only protecting the kid, not yourself. You go on screens all the day, and you have, like, I don't know how long you spend on the screens, but, like, you go on them every day to read news articles when you could just as easily get a subscription to the same news article and get it delivered to your house. Oh yeah, the apps you worry about are blocked. So yeah, that's it. I don't know, I didn't really plan it, so
Well, you
I'm
did
done.
an excellent job. Thank you very much for coming up. Mr. Dean, you're next.
Hi, I'm Dean Rosenkrantz from Ardmore, also a retired teacher from Lower Merion High School. I have one comment and two questions, and I'll be much less than 3 minutes. The comment is about the high school time limits on screens, and I understand the point that Dr. Ranelli made that it's difficult in high school because the kids have like 8 different teachers, and how would you manage a 120-minute limit per day? But I think there's another way to do it, which is to limit the number of minutes per course per week. And of course, each teacher could manage that because they control what happens in that course during that week. So you could do 60 minutes per course per week and end up with an enforceable limit or a manageable limit. So that's my comment. My questions, I have 2 of them. One is about artificial intelligence, which is not directly addressed in this policy, but I know there's another policy that the district has, which, my question, and I think that policy has not been looked at in a while. My question is, does the board intend to revisit that current policy? And if so, how will the input of teachers, students, parents, community people, national experts, and so forth be included in the discussion of developing a new AI policy? Because that is going to swamp educational technology, especially in middle school and high school, in the next year or 2. It probably already has. I mean, AI is ed tech in the high school. So I'm hoping that will be addressed hopefully next year. Another question I have is related, my last question is, there's a policy 254 that provides for a wellness committee, which I understand has been active in the past, but the question is that wellness committee currently functioning? If not, can we revive it? Could it include digital wellness as well as the other aspects of that committee's work? And if it becomes functional, or if it is functional, could you let us know who the current members are, including parents, students, and community people? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Ruth?
Bruce Jenkins, I live in Wynwood. I just want to make one comment before I start my real comment. The curriculum that you are using is purchased from the company that you also buy the technology. It seems to me there's a conflict of interest there. And it's going to be hard for a company who's selling you curriculum not to use it on technology. So I think maybe there should be a separation of powers. I'm a parent, a grandparent, an educator, a community activist, and a conscientious objector to this policy. The most important activity as parents is to keep our children safe. Buckle up, look both ways when crossing, don't take candy from strangers, be home before dark. When we send our children to school, we assume they will be safe. However, this screen policy puts our children in danger and at risk. There is increased anxiety, emotional stress, eye strain, high risk of progressive myopia, sedentary, poor posture, sensory deprivation, attention deficits, attention control and impulse control, eye contact, socializing and emotional skills, empathy, sensory motor skills, fundamental brain development, sleep impairment. This interferes with melatonin production, impacting rest. Would you call this a safe environment for our children?
Thank you.
I'm David Shapiro from Wynwood. I want to start by just asking that when you're thinking about policy, you think about the ripple effects of the policy. We just learned of a curriculum development in 7th and 8th grade. It used to be world language was core. That it is now no longer core and has been replaced by STEM in the form of computer education. World language is still there, but for kids with IEPs, if they have need to be pulled out for special instruction, they're pulled out of the language classes or something of similar. Instead, we're increasing the amount of screen time. We're forcing more screens onto a population that's especially prone to issues. And this is one of the ripple effects of a policy and a drive to have elements of the curriculum. We're so focused on STEM and making sure that kids are tech ready that we're forgetting sometimes, I think, about what it is that helps kids think and learn. And that actually brings me to another couple of questions. I mean, one is we have this, we want to ensure that instruction is primarily non-digital. And yet we're increasing classes that are forcing more to digital education at earlier ages. So, I just wonder what steps we're going to take to ensure instruction is primarily non-digital. Similarly, we've already seen it in this meeting in terms of placing limits on screen time. If one of the exceptions is an instructional exception and we have a class, a mandatory class every day that is 100% computer, I don't see how we're going to actually have the screen limits that we've talked about and set in our policy. And so I want to be very conscious of that and ask how are we going to enforce that and what, when we're creating exceptions, how are we going to actually establish meaningful exceptions as opposed to essentially an unlimited exception. Last thing, just in terms, I very much appreciate that we're focusing on filtering. But I still question why are we looking at trying to filter sites and stop workarounds rather than simply move to a whitelist model. It sounds like teachers may have the ability to do that, but why isn't that the default across the board with exceptions as needed? And one last thing, since we were talking about devices, personal devices earlier, just a note, when you think about watches as personal devices, I'm seeing an increasing proliferation of smart glasses and relating to AI and other inappropriate tools. Think about those specifically in the policy. Thank you.
Hi, it's Sarah Moyne from Wynwood. The school supply list for all grades includes headphones. Will this list be updated before the start of the school year? And why would headphones still be required for students in kindergarten through 2nd grade? My next question is about phones in the high school. I know you touched on this, but just wanted some clarification. Why does the policy for phones and other personal devices apply only through grade 8? Will the district extend it through grade 12 and adopt bell-to-bell restriction, which prohibits usage of devices during classes, passing periods, lunch, activities, and the full school day with clear and supportive enforcement? Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Rinaldi, you answered.
Yeah, so I can go through a couple of the answers. First of all, Greta, if you're still here, thank you. You did a great job. So one of the questions was AI, and do we intend to revisit it? Absolutely, because we do know that it is a big part of that. And once we decide on the process of that, we'll let you know. 254 Policy Wellness Committee, it is still functioning, and it is a function of our nutrition. So that is where the Wellness Committee sits, and our policy will change to reflect that. Let's see. How would we call this a safe environment with all of the detrimental things that Ms. Jenkins said? There's a lot of things in our lives that could be bad for us. If we try to make sure that we do them with little increments and not force them to do more things, hopefully we'll do a better job of all of that. Mr. Shapiro, world language no longer a core, replaced by STEM. What steps for non-digital? We went over those with our prep for our teachers. What is instructional expectation for STEM? Mr. Weinstein, could you talk about that, your STEM class a little bit, real quick?
Sure. World language is still a core in middle school. It wasn't replaced by a STEM elective. There are STEM electives in the elementary schools. They occasionally use online things like coding or code.org, I believe, as something where they use technology. We plan to continue to do that. It is not an expectation that it's the whole class. It is one of the electives.
Okay, thank you. And why is filtering not moved to a block list or a white list? We are moving toward that direction. We are blocking more things as a batch, but there are some things where categories that we're not, no, wait a second, hold on. No, we're not going to do that.
That is not how we're doing it.
Nope. So we are moving more toward a block list for certain categories and certain things. We want to make sure that the teachers have things at their disposal that they need. Headphones as part of the K-2 supply list. Mr. Weinstein, are you familiar with that? And are we still necessary? Should we change that supply list for headphones?
We'll discuss it with our elementary people.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And high school would move into a bell-to-bell ban as well for the 27-28 school year.
Let's keep it going for the next batch of people coming up.
First, real quick, do we have any other students who would like to speak? You go.
I'm Joaquin. I go to Lower Main High School. So I'm enjoying my summer vacation, so I didn't feel like I should write anything down. The last meeting, I asked a very simple question, and I didn't get an answer. And I heard a lot of excuses. Mostly the fact that your lawyer says you don't have to answer questions during this time, and come on, like I see through that. Like, what does that actually mean? Like, you don't have to take notes, no? Because there's no notes.
Hey,
right now.
Joaquin, you missed the
So
beginning.
I'd like to re-ask my question.
Yeah, we're doing 5 blocks,
I listed
so real
a
quick
lot
questions.
of, really horrible things that I see day to day. I listed all of the disheartening instances where my peers were cheating on core subjects instead of learning. They are literally letting AI replace all of that. But for some reason, there's not, really strict and clear language on AI in this policy. And I named all of the horrors I see with the phones, right? The phones during class, the students leaving class to get their dopamine hit. And I asked you, going into my 12th grade year, are you okay with my last year of high school looking like this? And when I asked that question, I never got an answer. And Dr. Ranelli, as one of your, I'm a student in your district who asked a really sincere question, and I never got an answer. And so I would like you to answer that tonight if you can.
Thank you, Joaquin. We're doing 5 people at the same time, and then we're answering questions that haven't been asked in blocks.
That's smart. That's a smart way to
This is the policy committee, so who's next?
Thank you.
No, we're not calling at excuse me?
Yeah, I don't think we have to build up these walls
Who's
okay. What's the point? Like, I'm still like a human. Like, you can actually
we're still in a
answer
democracy,
it,
and we
so
follow rules,
I
okay?
I don't appreciate
Ruth,
it, and
can you
it
let
really
me
makes me
know who's
upset.
next?
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have
Appreciate that.
Paul Weirner.
Paul. And then Ruth, who's after Paul?
Matthew Posey.
So Paul, Matthew.
Yair Lev.
Yair.
Taylor Cromwell.
And Taylor's after that? Perfect. And that's 5. Perfect. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks. Good evening. I'll be less than 3 minutes. I just have 3 quick questions. One regards computer labs. Will the district use computer labs to teach essential technology skills, including typing, media literacy, coding, AI, robotics, privacy, cybersecurity, safe searching, digital citizenship, and learning about the digital world? The second question is about securely and the inappropriate use of or access to sites. can securely guarantee that my child cannot access inappropriate content or websites? Third question also deals with securely. What is the district's responsibility if there is securely has a breach and what it defines as minor use data is stolen or exposed to the public? And that minor use data is in their terms and conditions on their website. Thank you.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
My name is Matthew Posey. I'm from Ballackinwood, and I'm a parent of a child in the Lower Merion School District. Over the past several months, we parents and taxpayers of this community have been told that this process that has resulted in the repeal of policies 134 and 137 and produced these ill-conceived replacements was an open, collaborative, and responsive public process. We were repeatedly invited to give feedback, and we were given assurance that our feedback matters. Now, recent records obtained under the Pennsylvania Right to Know law have revealed a different reality. An email exchange was dated April 9th, 2026, between Superintendent Ranelli and Board President Sautner. The superintendent directly instructed the board president to repeal policies 134 and 137, stating that the board must, and I quote, "see the vision in not allowing parents to totally opt out." Her response, 2 words, "got it." This dysfunctional exchange shows that our school district governance has failed for 2 reasons. 1, this process was entirely performative. While hundreds of parents were filling out surveys, attending these meetings, advocating to this board for an evidence-based approach to technology. The outcome of this process had already been decided. These meetings have been nothing but an inconvenience to be managed, and it's an embarrassing humiliation for everyone who feels like they would have been listened to. Second, the governance structure of this board, of this district, it's inverted. Under the Pennsylvania Public School Code, the school board's responsibility is to supervise the superintendent. While representing the citizens who elect them, the superintendent answers to the board. The board does not take directives from the superintendent on how to vote or what policy vision to accept. Now, this brings me to the critical question for every member of this committee tonight. Did the other members of this board and of this committee know that Dr. Ranelli had already directed Dr. Sautner to eliminate the opt-out rights a month before the public votes were taken? Or were you too led to believe that this matter was a genuine deliberation? That is my question, to be answered tonight. Now, finally, I'd like to point out that a member of our group, Dr. Lev, has stated repeatedly and publicly that Superintendent Ranelli told him in a private face-to-face meeting that the right to opt out would be eliminated. So it's clear if anyone ever doubted this account, these internal emails confirm his statements completely and further bolster his credibility in this matter. Decisive proof that this had been decided months ago. We've been told that Lower Merion taxpayers directly fund 85% of this district's budget. We do not pay premium local taxes to have this insulting rubber stamp school board governance. We expect an independent board that exercises oversight, listens to its constituents, and upholds the rights of parents. Thank you.
You're next. Go right ahead.
Hello. My name is Yair Lev, and I'm from Marion Station. So almost 5 months ago, about a third of the parents of one LMSD elementary school asked to opt their kids out of education technology for core subjects such as math. The principal, not only that the parents were denied and the request was rejected, but the principal was later removed from his position through a lateral reassignment. The movement spread throughout the district. Families sought to use their rights under policies 137 and 134 to receive an equivalent education without computers. But in April, the superintendent made it very clear to the board that he is expecting or demanding that those policies will be eliminated. Although the board members describe them as the reason that they're eliminating them is because it's not relevant or archaic or not to the times. We now know exactly why they were removed. Now, I want to address the new policy. Despite promises from the board members when we met with them a couple of months ago that they would work with the community members, including throughout the summer on the new technology policy, our repeated requests to meet, email, talk to each other, provide feedback were not answered. And the proposed policy is inadequate and far from what many parents, including researchers, pediatricians, mental health professionals, university professors, tech experts and CEOs and other experts requested. Silence. We hope it will be rejected. And now I want to look directly at the board members and say this. Our district faces real challenges involving equity and the achievement gap. It's not a secret. These are not just empty words, and you know this very well. Everything that I've learned through research, conversations with national and international experts show that increased screen use, including phones, but also school-issued Chromebooks, MacBooks, devices taken home, hurt students who have historically been underserved, especially the Black and the Latino students and families. I can show you if you want, and I can connect you many articles, and I can connect you to experts if you want to learn more about this. Consider a hardworking single mother raising 4 kids. She has less time to supervise every screen, including district-issued Chromebooks. Increased screen use is directly associated with worse academic, cognitive, and mental health outcomes. It is false to assume that sending a computer home with every child, especially children from underserved families, will automatically benefit them. Now, I really think that you have an opportunity to create an outstanding policy that protects every child, especially those who need the protection the most. But you must work with us. Listen to us. We have pediatricians. We have psychologists. Listen to us. You refuse to talk to us. You refuse to let us sit in their committees. There is refusal to talk to us. Now, we know that the pressure is being placed on you, huge amount of pressure. But what I'm asking you when I look at your eyes, Anna's not here, but I'm asking you to really look closely and think hard and feel in your heart what you really think is right for the families that you represent and for this entire district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Taylor Cromwell-Wiley, Ballack and Wood. I had one comment and 3 questions. I was actually really excited to hear Dean suggest the same comment that I'd written down regarding the potential of adding screen time caps for high school. And I had the same idea of having, rather than a whole day, breaking it down to every class. I'm not exactly sure how the high school works yet, because my kids aren't there. But I thought that sounded like a great idea to give each class a breakdown. My other questions, is I was wondering about what we called screen time. Because, Curry Sutner, I heard you say that you suggested watching a video on a projector rather than watching it on a personal screen, because that way it wouldn't count as screen time. But to me, like, that is still definitively screen time. It doesn't matter what the screen is. And so hearing that, like, difference of interpretation kind of alarmed me to what other ways it could be interpreted. So I'd like some clarification on that. And then my other questions were regarding K-2. One of the reasons that was listed for K-2 having digital devices was for digital test preparation. And I was wondering which specific testing and diagnostics were done in K-2 that required that. And then my other question was about 5th grade. When 5th grade was moved to the middle school, district leadership said the change was logistical and that 5th grade will remain a part of elementary school in all substantive respects. But then why is 5th grade treated the same as 6th grade in the draft ed tech policy? For example, grades 5 and 6 are grouped together on receiving one-to-one devices and the time limits, while grades 3 and 4 will not receive the one-to-one devices. Thanks.
And that's the end of the block 5, right? That's the end of the block 5?
Yes.
Yep, okay, go for it.
All right, first, our high school students. Question, are you okay with this last year looking the same? I am okay at this point because we are moving to the bell-to-bell for 27-28, and it's not in this year's policy. Okay, our computer labs in use, we do not plan to go back to use computer labs. Securely guarantee non-access. As much as we can, I'll ask Andrew to weigh in on those two questions, right? Actually, on question 2 and then Ken on question 3. How secure can we guarantee, or how could securely guarantee, or is that a possibility? And if it's not, please name that.
There's only a handful of filtering products out there that focus on education. When we evaluated products, we thought securely was at the top of the list, but no filtering product is perfect. If something does slip through, there are channels for the staff to very quickly get something that is slipping through that should not be blocked, and that's what we've been doing in the past.
All right, thank you. And then, Mr. Roos, the question was, what is our district response to a breach if securely has one, such as ones we might have had in the past?
Well, there's no one answer to that question. It would depend on the nature of the breach, who is responsible, what kind of information was breached, whether it constituted information that's required to be reported, for example, to the district attorney or to the community under the Data Breach Protection Act. There's a whole host of protections. So it really would depend upon, again, what the information was that was breached and who was responsible for the breach.
All right, number 3 and 4 were directed to the board. I'll answer number 5. Were we calling projector screen times? I'm considering that screen time as well. So a projector in a room showing a movie, that's screen time as well. K-2 test prep, there is no test prep in K-2. I don't believe that's in here. I haven't memorized everything, all these pages, but I don't believe test prep is in K-2 because they will not be taking any state testing. And 5th grade, so my understanding when I was not here, that 5th grade, when we moved 5th grade into middle school, that a lot of it was, okay, we're going to still treat them like elementary kids. Since then, again, before I got here, they really broke down the 5th and 6th grade into a lower middle school, and they treat them differently with the schedule and things like that, and 7th and 8th grade into an upper middle school. So that's how we're treating that with the technology policy. And then, again, the second
And just to reiterate, a screen in the middle of the classroom and a screen in front of your kid is the same screen time. So I misspoke on that one. I was literally just trying to figure out in my brain, how do you measure and how can you figure out how much screen time a high school kid gets? And I was thinking you wouldn't be able to capture that if you had it in the room. And so I misspoke on that one. So you're right. That's
well,
great.
Also elementary, right? Showing a movie.
Oh,
in
elementary,
class
definitely.
and things
But
like that,
for
yeah.
some reason, it like hurt my brain and I wasn't catching it in high school, but I would absolutely catch that in elementary. So I misspoke on that one. So you're absolutely right. What were the 2 questions for the board? I'm sorry, I got lost on those.
Really comments about you holding me accountable and...
Oh, we absolutely hold. I have to look at that email to see where I think I sometimes answer got it when I receive something, like I got it, but I have to look at it and answer you. We hold the superintendent accountable for everything that is literally our job as the board. We do not rubber stamp anything. I do not think that is humanly possible for any member of this board whatsoever because we are quite opinionated in all different directions. So please do not worry. We hold our position and our oath quite literally 100%. 134 and 137 were voted on, and I believe it was a 7-2 vote. And so even if that was a comment from me saying I agree with your comment in that email, which I do not think it was, but even if I did, that was one person on a team of 9, not 7. So that was the vote, that was the last meeting, and we've moved on to these 2 new policies. Let's make them the best as we possibly can.
All right, we have Meredith and Randy and Rebecca and Ginsha? What is it? Yes. Thank you, sorry.
Hi, I'm Meredith Briscoe-Basic, Marion Station. I just had a couple of questions for the board. The first is under the new policies, can families actually decline educational technology? So will families be allowed to decline one-to-one devices and ed tech for the core subjects like reading, writing, math, science, and social studies, and to do so without punishment, without stigma, or academic disadvantage? This would not apply to learning about technology and that planned instruction. My second question is K through 2 and grades 5 through 6 have been addressed, but looking at grades 3 through 4, I have a rising third grader. I was hoping there could be a little bit of clarity provided on what actually would account for the 30 to 45 minutes per school day use. What is it that is requiring a third or fourth grader to have that much screen time, especially if we take out just PSSA preparation and we think about STEM, which at least as I understand it is an elective that the students do once a week. So where is that 30 to 45 minutes coming into play? What is the content of that? Thank you.
Hi, Randy Harris from Balakinwood. So I came with two questions, but I came up with a third while you were talking about the default to off. I wanted to understand a little bit more about what that means. So does default to off mean that if you're not teaching, then it's off because you don't want to use it for recreational purposes, but it's okay if mostly you're using the screen for teaching? Or is it that a whole sort of philosophical change, which would be your default is teaching with it off? The other question I had was in the AR with, for grades 7 to 8, which Dr. Weinstein was talking about a little bit about the team-based teaching in the middle school. For the 90 minutes that are proposed there, how even as a team, how do you kind of, and I would never advocate for policing or micromanaging teachers because I am one, but how would that work? Like you're working on a project, you know, one teacher, what happened right before you, what happens right after, how do you manage that? And then finally, also in the AR, grades 5 to 6, it indicates that devices shall not be used in school buildings in the morning, before classes begin, between classes, at lunch, during INE, unless it's educational. But for 7 and 8, that's not mentioned, and I wasn't sure if that was intentional, because now it's more okay. They're more independent and can use their time in that way when they have downtime. I'm hoping that it was an accident, but you know, I wanted to check whether that was intentionally omitted for the older kids. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I'm also short here for the podium a little bit. I need some heels. I'm Rebecca Bertrand, and I live in Balakinwood, and I am a mother of a student going into 2nd grade this year. And so I just wanted a little bit more clarification on your K through 2 policy. Just going through it, some of the routine instruction, it's a little bit vague, and then it talks about state testing preparation and, if applicable, the diagnostic testing. So what would that entail? Is this, it says 3 to 4 times a year, so it's not going to be daily, it's not going to be weekly. Could we just have a little bit more clarification on that specifically, and how is that going to differ from previous years, just to kind of see that outlined this year versus last year, etc. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Girish Ramaswamy, Balakinwood. I have a couple of questions and a couple of comments. So first question is, in this new version of the K through 12 policy, why did the board remove the language about, developmentally appropriateness throughout the policy documents? The standard, if you call that developmentally appropriate a little vague, you should point us to language that's much more concretely defined in this, that is replaced as developmentally appropriate. As parents, as educators, we kind of know what is developmentally appropriate as our kids grow through from elementary through kindergarten through middle school. So why was that removed? We think this standard is important enough to rise in the policy and not just be a simple regulation. So that's number one. I'll go back to what Dean had asked at the beginning on Student Wellness Committee from Policy 254. Dr. Nunley, I think you answered it, but I don't think any of us understood what it means. Just a simple yes or or no, yes, we will establish a student wellness committee specifically focused on students' digital wellness, and in that we will include parents, guardians, students, educators, everyone else. Or no, that's not in our plan, that's not a big priority. Please give me a yes or no answer. Number 3. Since you kind of mentioned that there is no diagnostic testing for K through 2, there's no state level testing, etc., why can't we unequivocally say no devices, no screens, absolutely whatsoever for K through 2? Why is that still so hard for us to say that a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old does not need screen for anything in schools? Why is that so hard? And finally, why did the new draft policy remove the explicit prohibition against social networking, chat rooms, non-assigned gaming sites, other non-educational activity on school district devices? We've heard recently that students were actually on gambling sites in middle schools. So we think it's appropriate to name all of these, and not just say any non-educational websites will be removed and keep it superficial. The final point that I'll make is that go through holistically across the entire school districts where screens make an appearance in a most superficial manner. I'll give an example and then walk away. We noticed that at our Kinwood Elementary School, iPads are there in the libraries, and kids can pick up a book during the library period in 5 minutes, and they can go and sit on the iPad. We informed the principal, who promptly removed all of the devices from the library. That's just a simple example of things working if you communicate, right? So as a parent, I would ask you to holistically sit down and kind of see where screens are rearing its head that you kind of don't even think about, and weed out every single possible place, and this will probably be a better place for students to grow. Thank you so much.
So, okay, let me go through the questions I'll answer, and Mr. Weinstein will answer a few as well. So the new policy, can parents decline technology? They cannot decline technology in the new policy. Mr. Weinstein, grade 3 to 4 clarity on the 30, 45 minutes a day, where might that come from? And you might as well batch the question of the testing and diagnostics and things like that another person asked a little later.
Well, the diagnostics, as we've been presenting, when we do a curriculum, it's 3 times a year, typically beginning of year, middle of year, end of year. It captures the data in a better way that humans can do, so we can store it and compare it annually, year after year. In terms of the use, that what may comprise of the 30 minutes.
Well, can I interrupt you real quick?
Sure.
The second part of the diagnostics was, how is that different from previous years?
It's not.
It's not different. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's the same. Okay.
Yeah. The usages, there's plenty of them. Like, teaching is a really complex task. There's a lot of ways, like we keep saying, most of it is humanly led, and teachers are leading. There are times with active use where there are creation tools. Active use would be creating, collaborating, things like that. There are times where that happens. It's enjoyable, it's a creation, it's not a passive use where you're looking at a screen. So there are times when it can potentially happen. There are certain courses where it calls for it. I referenced coding and things like that that are part of curriculums across the country nationally, that again, when technology would do that better than humans, that's when it is. We're still talking about a small portion of the day.
Thank you. What does default to off mean? Yes, the second part of your answer question was what we mean by that. It's a philosophy that we don't lead with instruction. We lead with human interaction, and we're not computers forward. We expect the instruction to be more human-led than with a screen. The AR 7 to 8, 90 minutes, how would we monitor? Well, through teacher training, really. And the principals are going to have a big stake in the game here for the monitoring of how we monitor the time of any level in the instruction. No outside class 7 and 8, so it was mentioned in 5, 6, and there's been many iterations of this. Ms. Schaefer, was our intent to 7 and 8, no outside class time as well, or just 5th and 6th? I'm sorry, I don't remember the last iteration we have.
Yeah, I'm looking for that specific language. Developmentally, we talked about increasing responsibility at the 7-8 level. They are assigned devices that they default to take home. So there is times when they're going to have it before and after school because of that default. So I think we were thinking about when they might have that device in their hands and our, ability, relative to.
Yeah, so we'll make that clear in the AR, the final version of the AR.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Next question, why did board remove developmentally appropriate or things like those languages? We wanted to, we had this discussion about removing things that would mean one thing to one parent and teacher, one thing to another parent and teacher, and we really thought that developmentally appropriate, well, what does that mean? It could have a different meanings for all of the 8 or 9 of us at this table. So we wanted to remove that ambiguity. Digital wellness, 254, is it or is it not in the plan? It is not in the plan. We are going to make that nutritional wellness. No state level testing, why can't we say no to screens? Yeah, we see the value in some of the areas that would be used in K2. Again, our hope is that it's not used very often. We want them present in the classroom for students who have specific needs with their IEPs and things like that. And as we monitor throughout the year, the ARs can change and we'll make sure we're doing the right thing for the students. Why the new policy remove the names of certain types of social networking? Again, the iteration, I'm not sure that we intended to do that.
No, I mean, I think I can understand the benefit of the clarity of having some examples, and so we try to do that, but we know that those lists are never all-inclusive, so we can certainly consider where in the AR, if that is helpful for clarity purposes, to add that back in. I don't remember a specific reason not to include them other than that conversation.
Okay, and yeah, we will make sure we make that.
Sorry, I remember why we removed them, because under the security procedures, students shouldn't be able to access them. So we didn't want it to be confusing of where the accessibility was through the school district versus kids being able to get to them.
So we're gonna, Anna, can you say that again? Because it is really hard to hear you and hear your, or Megan, can you repeat that?
I think what Anna was sharing was that I think we ended up removing it because our filtering wouldn't allow for those things to be accessible in the first place. So by having those as examples suggested that they would be accessible, and our intent was to remove them, so it was clear that those sites should not be accessible given our filtering system.
Correct.
Do you want to address the library settings to a scrub? I thought that was a good point of just checking the over our settings to remove.
Sorry, I was just, one of the things, the last comment was more of a comment than a question, but this has come up multiple times in community settings, community conversations, and policy meetings was somebody said it once and had a really good name for it. It's like the passive use of technology, in the room. Some parent once used the example of there was an aquarium that was being projected on the wall, and the kids actually weren't looking at the real aquarium anymore in the classroom. That passive use of technology. Your point earlier was that in the library, when there's 1 million books, there's also an iPad. Remove the iPad. So do you want to address that?
Yeah, I think we have the same philosophy there, where the technology is not needed or can't add any real value. We want to absolutely remove that. If there are situations that you feel cross over that line and don't align with that, what you proposed that you did was you let the teacher, the principal know, and it was removed. That communication is really important for us.
Okay, so this ends our portion of community conversations and community comments, and the last section we do is, Mr. Ruse, I'm looking to you on this section.
The next part is basically just to go through what changes you want made to what's the existing draft, so that you can determine whether or not you're going to recommend that the policy moves forward, each policy moves forward for second reading. Both policies are primed to move forward for second reading, and it's depending on what changes, if any, you make to what's already been suggested.
Great. So Megan and Ms. Schaefer and Dr. Rinaldi, do you want to talk through kind of what edits that you're going to go through? As we reviewed in the beginning of the meeting, we were going through 45 minutes was the designated amount of time we have for community engagement.
And then you cut us off here. So this is not a discussion. There's no collaboration. The way you're responding is ridiculous and does not facilitate a conversation.
Okay, and now we're moving on. Okay, so let's move on to Megan, Ms. Schaefer, and Dr. Rinaldi.
Stop the meeting, maybe have a recess.
Okay,
signed
please.
up for a comment.
Feel free to cut the mic.
So after the public comments at the last meeting, so
Cut the
Anna
mic.
had stated, asserted a number of times. We signed up for the public.
Okay, we're going to call a recess. Thank you, everybody. Let's call a recess. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to read the civility policy, because I just want to make sure that everybody is well aware that this is a public government meeting, and when you're disrupting a public government meeting, you're actually breaking the law. We are not in public comment. So I please, I love the First Amendment, but the First Amendment follows a time, place, and matter ruling, and we are past the time and place and matter. So please, sir, I would ask you to stop so we do not have to continue this.
I would appreciate if the solicitor would answer
So
the assertion.
we are either going to recess this meeting again.
How about we resume public comment?
If
How much more is on the list?
anybody that continues to disrupt the meeting may be excluded from future meetings. So by continuing to talk, you are running the risk that you'll be excluded from participation.
Can the board secretary say how many is remaining?
Can security ask this individual to leave? Yeah,
Do you want to take a step outside with me?
I would rather not.
Okay. Are you deciding on behalf of everyone here that the meeting is concluded? Because if you continue in the same, then we'll just finish it.
Yeah.
Would everyone like for the meeting to continue with public comment? Yeah.
Excuse me, the meeting is not continuing in public comment. We have two options. We can either continue the meeting and follow the proceeding for making edits to this policy, or we can close this meeting and continue on Zoom. That is the two options. The only option that we have for you, sir, is to be quiet or to leave the room. That is your right as a citizen of this country to follow the rule of law and to follow the democracy, which is ask for civility in a pluralist democracy. So right now, this is your only two options, to please leave the room or please stay and listen. That is your two options. Which one would you like to take?
Public comment.
Okay, we are closing the meeting and we will be on Zoom in 5 minutes. Thank you. This meeting is now officially closed in public. Okay, everyone, thank you for your patience. We're going to get started. We are officially bringing this meeting back to order. We are in the final phases of this meeting, so we have 2 points of order to do at this point in time. We will go around and review any edits we have to policy 141 and 142, any edits for both of those, and then we will vote as a policy committee to move 141 forward or in 142 forward or not. So let's begin with suggested edits that Dr. Rinaldi and Ms. Schaefer, that you've heard from the board and from the community, that we have heard that we are moving forward into 141 and 142. So I'll turn it over to either one of you, and I can mute myself so both of you can feel free to unmute and speak.
Okay, so as far as the policy is concerned, no edits of major concern, some typographical errors, maybe rearranging a sentence or two. The breadth of the changes that we'll look to make and consider as an administrative team are to the ARs. So we will do that, and we'll make sure any of the questions that we had from the public tonight or any of the questions we have from the board will make very clear as we move forward for the August 17th meeting.
No, I think the notes I have reflect places where we can clarify some of the work that we're doing, add and enhance sort of the transparency for the community. I think a lot of what Dr. Rinaldi spoke with about earlier in the meeting, we can highlight in the AR and related communications around the new policy in the ARs.
So I'll ask my fellow committee members, Mr. Herman, Ms. Kerber, and Anna Shrek, any comments, feedback on what you just heard from Dr. Rinelli and Ms. Schaefer?
No comments on my end. I trust
You
that
could just talk. I can use mine.
Yeah.
Frank and
Okay.
Megan will implement
I
the
just wanted
changes.
to mention a couple things that, some additional feedback from board members, which includes the numbering, which is out of sync. On page 5, prohibit use is 5, it's out of sequence. 6 is missing.
I thought we caught that already.
And I think we talked about, did we talk about reintroducing developmentally appropriate to be consistent?
I spoke about it. There was a question regarding the word. I gave you the reason. I gave the public the
Okay.
reason why we took it out because it was ambiguous.
Okay, all right.
So that's.
I think that's it.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Perfect.
So as to the policy for policy 141, we were going to take a look at, or the administration was going to take a look at for 5th and 6th grade about, 7th and 8th grade on page 3 about the possibility of putting that they should not be used in school buildings in the morning before classes begin. I'd also see if it's possible to include for 5th graders and 6th as well as 7th and 8th about after school as well, bus ride home, and if there's like a waiting period before they get on the buses, if that's an option as well. And then to take a look at the policy, the second policy regarding safety monitoring and privacy as to whether or not a more descriptive use of the technology that we're currently using, whether or not that's appropriate in the policy or in the administrative regulations, or both. So if we could take a look at that and just see, and then also just overarching, there are some areas, and I'm happy to go, to go into more detail later on, but just, for example, like on page 3 of early elementary, it says any use shall be like minimally, the word minimal, limited, like there are some very broad and vague terminology that if we can maybe strengthen those so that they're a little bit more clear to provide teachers and principals more guidance so that there's not the ambiguity. I'd use the example like that one of the public had said about like the projectors and that there was like there was a different interpretation that, Curry had that other board members didn't have. So if we can maybe flush that out a little bit more, it might be helpful so that there's less ambiguity so that there's less confusion. And then there's other questions, obviously, for the administrative regulations that we brought up before about just for consideration from the administration about timing and all the other ones, but I don't have to go back into that, but for consideration of that as well, please.
And I'm going to read Anna's comment into the record. No comment on my end from Anna. Thank you. And I'll just reiterate what I said in the meeting. I think, Frank, a lot of what you shared in the beginning of the meeting was a lot of that clarity. And I do not mind if they go into the ARs or into the policy, but I think that clarity of definition was really eye-opening and took away that gray of what do you really mean by that? Like, what is the clarity around that? I think that would be really helpful. And that for me really solved a lot of my concerns I had around data privacy. And Megan, you had shared earlier about like cross connecting the data privacy contracts we had and the policies that we have back into the ARs of 142. And I think if we can do that, I think the policies are sound, but having that extra layer of support and clarity in the ARs will then really clarify. Because again, these tools are all meant to be together and work together. I also think, there is nothing wrong with having an overarching memo on both of these policies and ARs that say, this is what we believe, this is where we stand. And that's almost what your memo did tonight. So layering them together, I think helps the community understand what is our standards, and then what is our vision, and then what is our practice. And that's how all three stack together. And so as long as that we're using them that way, that our teachers and our schools are, ensuring that they're being taught that way through training and that we're evaluating them that way. And like Scott, to the point around teacher training, and we talked about this, how are they being incorporated back into, I always forget the name of the teacher training system that we have, the evaluation system. No, what's the review process? Yeah, the frameworks. So like, thinking of that through like, how do we pull the curriculum that we're training them on and the standards and the values back into the framework? Like, how do we really pull that all the way through? Again, that's your job. That's not the job of the board, but holistically, how do we see this as a systems-wide change? Policy sets the vision, but it's when we really take it on as a systems-wide change that we move it forward. It took us 20 years to get here with technology. It's going to take us a while to roll this back. And that means in every aspect of the school system, from curriculum to policy to everything we're doing, and we're really moving it forward. But I think holistically, we have to think through in that way too. So that would be wonderful. Great. Thank you. Okay. So now I guess we vote to move 141 and 142 forward. Do we do that as two separate votes or can we do them together? Okay.
Well, why don't you do it separately?
Okay.
In case somebody wants to move one out the other.
So I'd like to know if each one of the policy committee members will recommend to move 141 forward to the board on the August 17th meeting for adoption. Thank you.
Aye.
I say aye. Anna?
Aye.
I don't hear Anna yet, but Jason, Juanita?
Aye.
Juanita says yes.
So I think at this point, I'd rather have it pushed off to another meeting so that we can go over the corrections of the policy and the administrative regulations. I think there's some additional work that can be done, and I'd love to get the feedback and then do it. I think that there's no rush. I think that Dr. Nell is already implementing it, he said, for this upcoming school year. So unless there's some sort of reason why it needs to be in the August meeting, my position would be is to wait until those changes are made and then do it at the following meeting.
I think there is an important reason to move it forward. We have 3 to move it forward, so we can move it forward for a recommendation, but I still would like you to address that, Dr. Anelli.
Yeah, sure. So as we prepare our training for our teachers, I really want to make sure that we do everything possible as the board policy would drive. I understand what Mr. Herman said about we're acting as we're doing it because you gave us that direction. But I still think any ambiguity, if we have we start the year and there are changes in September or October or anything like that, would really cause some more issues for us than we would like to welcome. So, and then again, I don't know that we'd be proposing another AR at the August meeting because that's administratively driven. It would be public knowledge, but it wouldn't be for that approval.
Okay, so it's recommended to move forward. I'm recommending to move 142 forward to the August 17th meeting. And do I have a vote on that? Anna, Juanita, Jason?
I'll sit for adoption.
For adoption, sorry. Get all the clarity there. Anna's yes.
Aye.
And for the same reason, I would just, same reason as noted before.
Got it. So we have 3 to move it forward for adoption at the August 17th meeting with the recommended edits as well. With the same, Dr. Ranelli, I'm assuming the same reasoning, clarity for the teachers and training and everything is important to move forward with the new school year. Great. Okay, great. And so with that, our policy meeting has adjourned. Anything else for when's our next meeting?
August 17th.
No, that's our next business meeting, you're right, is August 17th, and September 14th is our next policy meeting. See you all then. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate that. Everybody have a good night.